Cadet Sarah Mitchell stepped onto the training grounds of Fort Bragg with a mixture of determination and apprehension settling deep in her chest. The summer sun bore down relentlessly, the heat radiating off the cracked pavement, as if the very earth sought to test her resolve before she even began. Around her, a sea of new recruits moved with varying degrees of confidence, some loud and brash, their voices carrying easily across the camp, others quiet and withdrawn like herself. But Sarah's gaze remained steady, fixed ahead on the imposing obstacles and drill instructors who embodied every challenge she would have to face. From the moment she reported, the atmosphere was thick with skepticism. The instructors, hardened veterans with eyes like steel traps, sized her up in a glance. Sarah was slight in build, her frame lean, and less muscular than many of the other trainees. Her quiet demeanor, a product of years spent reading and reflection more than shouting and bravado, only seemed to deepen the doubts cast upon her by those who believed strength was measured solely in volume and muscle. Whispers circled among the recruits, "Too small, won't make it through, not cut out for this." Yet Sarah heard none of it directly, she carried the weight of those judgments silently, letting them fuel an inner fire. The first day was a blur of commands shouted over the din, the sharp orders of Drill Sergeant Harper cutting through the cacophony as he barked out instructions with relentless precision. Sarah moved through the formations with a steady rhythm, absorbing every detail of the training environment. The barracks were austere, the bunks neatly made in rows that stretched as far as the eye could see. The mess hall smelled of stale coffee and burnt toast, a far cry from the home-cooked meals she longed for. Yet it was here, amid the discomfort and discipline, that Sarah felt the first solid stirrings of resolve. The physical demands were immediate and brutal. Runs that left lungs burning, push-ups until arms trembled, obstacle courses designed to break the spirit of the faint-hearted. Sarah's slight frame made some of these tasks more difficult, the heavier recruits moving with a momentum she could only envy. Yet her determination was unyielding. Where she lacked raw power, she made up for it with focus and endurance. Each fall during a climb was met with a quick breath, and a steady hand gripping the next hold. Each failed push-up was a lesson in perseverance rather than defeat. Her quietness became a shield and a source of strength. While others shouted encouragement or complained loudly, Sarah concentrated inward, silencing the noise both outside and within. She had spent years learning to listen, listening to her own heartbeat, to the rhythm of her breath, to the subtle shifts in the environment around her. This skill, often overlooked by her peers, gave her a clarity that the more boisterous recruits lacked. She was not here to make noise or draw attention, she was here to prove herself through action. Yet the doubts were never far. During breaks, some recruits cast sideways glances or whispered in low tones, their skepticism palpable. "She's too quiet," one muttered. "Probably won't last the week." Sarah caught these words, but they did not pierce her resolve. Instead, they became a quiet challenge she carried with her into every drill and exercise. She reminded herself of why she was here, her father's voice echoing in her memory, telling her that respect was earned through hard work and quiet dignity, not through empty boasts. That belief anchored her as the days stretched on. Contrasting Sarah's steady focus, other recruits flaunted their bravado openly. Cadet Mitchell observed some of the more arrogant trainees, their chests puffed out, their laughter loud and overbearing. They underestimated the training's toll, and more importantly, underestimated her. Yet their confidence, though brash, was a reminder of the battlefield she had stepped into, a place where appearances often masked true capability. Sarah allowed their overconfidence to sharpen her own resolve. While they wasted energy on self-promotion, she conserved hers for the trials ahead. The instructors rarely addressed Sarah directly in those early hours, their attention primarily on the larger, louder recruits who seemed more likely to falter. But their sharp eyes missed little. Drill Sergeant Harper, a man whose reputation for toughness was matched only by a keen sense of who might endure, occasionally cast a lingering glance in Sarah's direction. It was not yet approval, but it was acknowledgement, an unspoken recognition that she was not simply another face in the crowd. The first night in the barracks was a crucible of its own. Exhausted bodies sprawled in neat rows, the air thick with the scent of sweat and anticipation. Sarah lay on her cot, muscles aching but mind alert. The doubts from the day replayed in her thoughts, whispers, dismissive looks, the silent judgment of those around her. But beneath it all was a quiet certainty. She was here to prove something not just to others, but to herself. The path ahead was daunting, but Sarah knew that every step forward, no matter how small, was a victory in itself. As dawn broke over the training grounds the next morning, the camp stirred with renewed energy. Sarah rose with the sun, lacing her boots and tightening her uniform with practiced care. The air was cooler now, the heat momentarily tempered, but the challenge awaiting her was as fierce as before. She joined the morning formation, her posture straight, her eyes clear and unwavering. In that moment, surrounded by the cacophony of commands, the pounding of boots, and the restless energy of new recruits, Sarah felt an unshakable resolve settle within her. The doubts of others were like distant thunder, present but powerless to shake the foundation she was building. Her journey had begun, and though the road ahead would test every ounce of her strength and spirit, she was ready to face it head-on. She was the quiet recruit with the slight build, the one others underestimated. But Sarah Mitchell was determined to show that courage and resilience were not measured by size or volume, but by the steadfastness of one's heart. And with that conviction, she stepped forward into the grueling world of basic training, ready to carve out her place among the soldiers who would one day stand beside her. The days that followed were a relentless series of grueling tests, designed to push every recruit to their breaking point. Cadet Sarah Mitchell faced each challenge with a quiet determination that, while not flashy, was unyielding. The sun rose and set over Fort Bragg, casting long shadows across muddy fields, obstacle courses, and shooting ranges. Each morning began before dawn with the sharp call of the bugle, and each night ended with the exhaustion that settled into aching muscles and heavy lungs. Physical endurance was the first barrier. The morning runs stretched longer each day, the uneven terrain biting into flesh and bone with every pounding step. Sarah's legs burned, and her breath came in ragged gasps, but she refused to slow. Her slight frame made the hills and sprints more punishing compared to the larger recruits, who seemed to carry their weight with ease. Yet, beneath the sweat and fatigue, there was an unspoken drive that pushed her forward. She was not the fastest, nor the strongest, but she was steady. When others faltered, she kept moving, step by determined step. Mental endurance was another trial altogether. The instructors tested not only physical strength, but also the recruits' ability to think quickly under pressure. Tactical drills forced them to make split-second decisions, sometimes in simulated combat scenarios that were as confusing as they were chaotic. Sarah found herself drawn to these moments, where quiet observation and careful calculation made the difference between success and failure. She listened more than she spoke, observing the movements of her squad mates and the commands of her officers with a focus that surprised even herself. Setbacks came, as they inevitably did. During a timed obstacle course, Sarah stumbled on a loose plank, sending her sprawling into the mud. The cold, sticky dirt clung to her uniform, but she refused to let the fall define her. She scrambled back up, heart pounding, and finished the course with a determination that caught the eye of a nearby instructor. It was a small victory, but in the brutal world of basic training, even small victories were hard won. One particular moment became pivotal in shifting how others viewed Sarah. The obstacle course was set under a gray, overcast sky, the air thick with humidity and tension. Midway through, one of her fellow trainees, Private First Class Ryan, lost his footing on a rope climb and dangled helplessly, panic flashing across his face. Without hesitation, Sarah moved swiftly, offering a steady hand and calm reassurance that steadied Ryan's nerves. Together they completed the climb, Sarah's quiet strength a lifeline in a moment of crisis. The incident sparked reluctant respect among some of her peers. Whispers no longer questioned her ability outright, but rather began to acknowledge her resilience. "She's tougher than she looks," one said under his breath. Another nodded in agreement, eyes lingering on Sarah with a newfound recognition. It was not admiration born from loud confidence or aggressive displays, but from a quiet, steadfast courage that spoke louder than words. The instructors, too, began to take notice. Drill Sergeant Harper's steely gaze lingered longer during drills, his sharp eyes assessing Sarah with a measure of approval that was rare in the early days of training. He called her out occasionally, not with praise, but with pointed challenges that tested her limits. Each time, Sarah met those challenges head-on, pushing herself further than she thought possible. The skepticism that had followed her arrival began to erode under the weight of her consistent effort. Despite these small victories, many still doubted her potential for true distinction. The military was a world that rewarded strength and boldness, qualities often measured in volume and intensity. Sarah's quiet confidence was an anomaly, a puzzle that some instructors struggled to understand. Comments behind closed doors hinted at uncertainty. She's persistent, but can she lead? Will she hold up when the pressure really mounts? These questions hung in the air like a challenge waiting to be answered. Sarah did not let these doubts discourage her. Instead, they became fuel for her determination. She understood that earning respect in this environment required more than physical prowess. It demanded mental toughness, reliability, and an unwavering commitment to the mission. She embraced each test as an opportunity to prove that resilience and courage could take many forms. The steady rhythm of her footsteps, the calm in her eyes, and the quiet strength in her actions began to weave a different narrative, one of a recruit who might just surpass expectations. In the evenings, when the camp settled into an uneasy quiet, Sarah reflected on the day's events. The fatigue in her body was matched by a growing confidence in her mind. She thought of Ryan's grateful glance, the grudging nods from her peers, and the rare approving looks from Sergeant Harper. These moments, small as they were, stitched together a fabric of encouragement that bolstered her spirit. The contrast between Sarah and some of the more brash recruits became more pronounced with each passing day. Their loud boasts and confident swagger often masked insecurities, and their energy sometimes flagged under the unrelenting pressure of training. Sarah's quiet perseverance stood in stark relief, a constant, unwavering presence amid the chaos. While they sought recognition through noise and bravado, she sought it through consistent action, proving that leadership and strength could emerge in many forms. Training drills evolved into complex exercises that demanded teamwork and quick thinking. Sarah learned to navigate the delicate balance between following orders and taking initiative. She found herself naturally stepping into roles that required calm under pressure, a steady hand in moments of uncertainty. Her ability to remain composed even when the situation grew tense earned her subtle nods of approval from instructors who valued reliability above all. Yet, Sarah remained aware that her journey was far from over. The slow shift in perception was encouraging but fragile. Doubts lingered, and the true tests of leadership and courage still awaited her. She understood that proving herself was not a single act but a continuous process, one that demanded resilience in the face of adversity and humility in moments of triumph. As the weeks unfolded, Sarah's reputation grew quietly but steadily. She became a symbol for some of the newer recruits who saw in her a model of discipline and determination. In an environment where loud voices often dominated, her example showed that strength could be quiet and steadfast. The grudging respect from her peers and instructors alike began to chip away at the walls of doubt that had surrounded her arrival. In moments of exhaustion and self-doubt, Sarah reminded herself of the lessons her father had taught her, the importance of perseverance, the power of quiet resolve, and the value of earning respect through actions rather than words. These lessons became her compass, guiding her through the grueling days and restless nights of basic training. Sarah Mitchell was no longer just the quiet recruit with a slight build. She was becoming a recruit who could endure, who could lead in her own way, and who was beginning to rewrite the story that others had written for her. The long road ahead was still daunting, but with each small victory, she moved closer to the soldier she aspired to be, resilient, courageous, and quietly unbreakable. The final field exercise loomed over the recruits like a gathering storm. It was the culmination of weeks of punishing training, a test of leadership, courage, and the ability to think clearly when every muscle screamed in fatigue and confusion reigned. Cadet Sarah Mitchell knew this was the moment that would define her basic training journey, the crucible where all doubts would either be shattered or confirmed. The exercise began before dawn, the sky a dark canvas streaked with the faintest hints of light. The recruits were thrust into a simulated combat scenario, a chaotic battlefield designed to push their limits and force them to act decisively under pressure. Commands crackled over radios, the sharp bark of drill instructors cutting through simulated gunfire and shouted orders. Sarah's heart pounded, but her mind remained clear, anchored by the countless drills and lessons that had prepared her for this moment. As her squad navigated the rough terrain, they were suddenly confronted by a crisis. One of their members was wounded in the simulation, caught in a position exposed to hostile fire. Panic flickered across the faces of the squad, confusion threatening to unravel their cohesion. It was a moment that demanded quick thinking and calm leadership, qualities Sarah had cultivated quietly but steadily throughout training. Without hesitation, Sarah stepped forward. Her voice was steady but firm as she issued clear, concise orders, directing teammates to provide cover while she moved to assist the wounded recruit. Her actions were swift and deliberate, each movement purposeful as she navigated the dangerous terrain with a composure that surprised even herself. Where others hesitated or shouted aimlessly, Sarah's calm decisiveness cut through the chaos. The simulation intensified, with obstacles and unexpected challenges thrown in to test the recruits' adaptability. Sarah's squad relied on her steady leadership, following her instructions with growing confidence. She coordinated their movements, balanced risk with caution, and maintained a focus that kept the team moving forward despite the mounting pressure. Her quiet confidence became a beacon in the confusion, drawing the squad together when fractures threatened to form. By the time the exercise reached its climax, Sarah had not only prevented a simulated disaster, but had also showcased remarkable composure under fire. The instructors who observed the scene exchanged glances, their earlier skepticism giving way to a newfound respect. Drill Sergeant Harper's sharp eyes tracked her every move, and when the exercise concluded, he nodded subtly, a rare gesture of approval that spoke volumes. Sarah felt a surge of something unfamiliar but powerful, quiet pride. The doubts that had shadowed her since arrival seemed to recede, replaced by an awareness of her own capability. She had stepped beyond the role of the underestimated recruit, and into the realm of a capable, courageous leader. The transformation was not marked by loud celebration or grand gestures but by a steady, unshakable confidence that settled deep within her. In the aftermath, as the recruits gathered for debriefing, whispers circulated among the trainees. The same peers who had once doubted her now regarded Sarah with a mix of surprise and respect. She kept her head when it mattered, one remarked quietly. Another nodded, adding, "I didn't think she had it in her, but she proved me wrong." These acknowledgments, though subtle, were a powerful testament to the shift in perception that Sarah had worked so hard to bring about. The instructors' feedback was measured but significant. They praised her clear thinking, decisive action, and ability to maintain composure in a high-stress environment. For Drill Sergeant Harper, who had been a relentless taskmaster throughout training, this was an important recognition. His approval was not given lightly, and Sarah understood that it marked a turning point in her military career. Sarah's quiet confidence grew with each passing day after the exercise. She began to see herself not as the recruit who had arrived with doubts weighing heavily on her shoulders, but as someone who had earned genuine respect through resilience and courage. This realization fortified her spirit and deepened her commitment to the path she had chosen. The transformation was not lost on those around her. Fellow recruits who had once dismissed her began seeking her advice during drills and exercises, valuing the calm clarity she brought to difficult situations. Even some of the more skeptical instructors started to acknowledge her potential as a leader, offering challenges that tested her further but also provided opportunities for growth. Despite the growing respect, Sarah remained grounded. She understood that leadership was not about ego or recognition, but about responsibility and service. Her focus stayed on the tasks at hand, ensuring that every decision she made was thoughtful and deliberate. The lessons of perseverance and humility that had carried her from the beginning remained her guiding principles. The final field exercise had not only tested Sarah's abilities, but had also revealed the depth of her character. In the crucible of simulated combat, she had demonstrated that true courage was measured not by loud declarations, but by steady resolve and decisive action when it mattered most. This breakthrough marked a significant milestone in her journey, one that reshaped how she saw herself and how others saw her. As the days passed and training neared its conclusion, Sarah felt a growing sense of purpose. The path ahead was still challenging, but she now carried with her the quiet confidence of someone who had faced adversity head-on and emerged stronger. Her journey from the underestimated recruit to a capable leader was underway, and she was ready to embrace the responsibilities that came with it. In the stillness of the barracks that night, as exhaustion settled into every fiber of her body, Sarah allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. The journey had been arduous, filled with doubt and hardship, but it had also been transformative. She understood now that her strength lay not in the absence of fear or uncertainty, but in her ability to act with courage despite them. Cadet Sarah Mitchell was no longer just a quiet face among many. She had broken through the barriers of doubt and emerged as a leader in her own right, a soldier whose courage and composure would inspire those around her. The road ahead remained uncertain, but Sarah faced it with a steady heart and an unshakable resolve, ready to meet whatever challenges awaited. As the final days of basic training unfolded, Cadet Sarah Mitchell found herself standing in a place she had once thought unreachable. The grueling weeks of trials, self-doubt, and quiet perseverance had culminated in a transformation that did not go unnoticed. It was Major Daniels, the commanding officer known for his stern demeanor and unwavering standards, who formally acknowledged Sarah's exceptional actions during the final field exercise. In the dim light of the briefing room, Major Daniels addressed the assembled recruits and instructors, his voice carrying the weight of authority and respect. Cadet Mitchell demonstrated remarkable leadership and composure during our most challenging exercise, he stated plainly. Her ability to assess the situation swiftly and guide her squad to safety exemplifies the qualities we demand from every soldier in this unit. The room buzzed with a mixture of surprise and admiration. Sarah's peers, some of whom had once doubted her, now regarded her with a newfound respect. Whispers of regret intermingled with praise as those who had dismissed her quiet demeanor reflected on their earlier judgments. Among them, Private First Class Ryan, whose life she had steadied during the rope climb weeks before, caught her eye and offered a nod of sincere gratitude. This recognition was not merely a moment of personal triumph, it marked a shift in how Sarah was perceived within the unit. In the days that followed, she found herself approached by fellow recruits who sought her guidance, eager to learn from the calm confidence she exuded. The very qualities that had once set her apart as an underdog now made her a model for others navigating the harsh realities of training. Embracing this new role with humility, Sarah began mentoring newer recruits during downtime between drills. She shared not only tactical advice but also the lessons she had internalized about resilience and quiet determination. Her approach was patient and steady, reflecting the same demeanor that had carried her through the toughest moments of basic training. Through her mentorship, she cultivated a sense of camaraderie and trust that helped others find their own strength. Instructors, too, took note of Sarah's influence beyond her individual performance. Drill Sergeant Harper, who had once regarded her with cautious skepticism, now saw in her the makings of a leader who could inspire discipline and dedication in others. He assigned Sarah additional responsibilities, testing her ability to manage both tasks and people under the demanding conditions of training. These opportunities were both a challenge and a validation. Sarah approached each with the same meticulous attention to detail and measured confidence that had become her hallmark. She understood that leadership was not about commanding attention but about earning trust through consistent, reliable action. The respect she garnered was hard-won, grounded in the authenticity of her efforts rather than superficial displays. Within the barracks, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Where once there had been whispered doubts and dismissive glances, there now lingered a quiet acknowledgement of Sarah's growing stature. Some of the more brash recruits who had mocked her early on found themselves reconsidering their attitudes, recognizing that strength took many forms. Sarah's journey had begun to reshape the culture around her, fostering an environment where perseverance and humility held as much value as loud confidence. Despite the recognition and new responsibilities, Sarah remained acutely aware of the challenges that still lay ahead. The end of basic training was only the beginning of her military career, and the lessons she had learned were a foundation rather than a destination. She welcomed the chance to continue proving herself, motivated not by accolades, but by a commitment to excellence and service. In moments of quiet reflection, Sarah thought back to the early days of training, the harsh judgments, the physical strain, and the internal doubts that had threatened to overwhelm her. She realized how far she had come, not just in skill but in spirit. The transformation was as much internal as it was external, a growth rooted in resilience and the unwavering belief that respect was earned through actions, not words. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, a steady reminder of the values that had guided her from the start. Respect is never given freely, he had said. It's something you build, piece by piece, through hard work and integrity. Sarah now understood the truth of those words more deeply than ever. Her journey was a testament to the power of quiet determination in the face of skepticism and adversity. As the training cycle neared its conclusion, Sarah felt a profound sense of purpose settle within her. The recognition from Major Daniels and the respect of her peers and instructors had not diminished her humility, instead, it had strengthened her resolve to lead by example. She embraced her role as a mentor and a symbol of perseverance, knowing that her influence extended beyond her own achievements. The quiet strength that had carried her through the toughest days of basic training now became a beacon for others. In a world where loud voices often dominated, Sarah's steady presence offered a different kind of leadership, one grounded in patience, resilience, and unwavering commitment. Her journey had reshaped not only her own path, but also the attitudes of those around her. As she prepared for the final phases of training, Sarah remained focused on the future. The challenges ahead would be formidable, but armed with the lessons of her past and the support of those she had inspired, she was ready. Her story was no longer one of doubt and underestimation, but of quiet triumph and growing responsibility. In the stillness of the barracks that evening, Sarah sat quietly, reviewing her notes and plans for mentoring the newest recruits. The room was filled with the low murmur of soldiers preparing for the next day, but her mind was calm and clear. She understood that her journey was about more than personal success. It was about setting a standard and inspiring others to find their own strength. Cadet Sarah Mitchell had emerged from the shadows of doubt into the light of recognition and responsibility. The path ahead was open, filled with challenges and opportunities alike. With humility and determination, she was ready to walk it, knowing that her quiet leadership would continue to shape not only her future but the future of those who would follow in her footsteps. The day of graduation dawned crisp and clear, sunlight filtering through the early morning haze as the assembled recruits stood in formation. Cadet Sarah Mitchell stood among them, her uniform immaculate, her posture straight and steady. The weeks of relentless training, doubt, and quiet perseverance had led to this moment, a ceremony that marked not just the end of basic training, but the beginning of her life as a soldier. The ceremony was formal and precise, the cadence of commands echoing across the parade ground. Families and officers gathered, their eyes fixed on the rows of new soldiers who had endured the crucible of training. Sarah's heart beat steadily, a calm beneath the weight of anticipation. She had long prepared for this day, not for the ceremony itself, but for the validation it represented. When the commanding officer stepped forward to announce the awards, a hush fell over the crowd. Names were called, recognitions for marksmanship, physical excellence, leadership, and valor. Sarah listened as others received their honors, her mind steady but alert. Then, unexpectedly, her own name was called. The Valor Cross. A ripple of surprise passed through the ranks. The Valor Cross was reserved for extraordinary courage and dedication, a recognition that transcended the routine assessments of physical and mental endurance. Sarah stepped forward, her movements composed, and accepted the medal from Major Daniels himself. The commanding officer's firm handshake and solemn nod conveyed a respect that words could not fully capture. The applause that followed was warm but measured, reflecting the quiet dignity Sarah had always embodied. For some, the award was a revelation, proof that the quiet recruit with the slight build had not only met expectations, but exceeded them in a way few had anticipated. The lingering doubts that had once shadowed her presence were silenced by this singular honor. Standing before the crowd, Sarah felt a profound mixture of emotions. Pride, yes, but also humility and gratitude. She thought of the long hours of training, the moments of exhaustion and doubt, and the steady encouragement of those who had believed in her. The Valor Cross was not just a personal accolade, it was a testament to the journey she had undertaken and the values she held dear. As she returned to her place in formation, Sarah caught the eyes of her fellow recruits. Some smiled with genuine admiration, others nodded in respect. The transformation in their perception was palpable, a shift from skepticism to acknowledgement of her courage and dedication. Sarah understood that her journey had become a symbol for many, a story of perseverance against the odds. Later, in the quiet moments following the ceremony, Sarah reflected on the path that had brought her here. The doubts she once carried seemed distant now, overshadowed by the recognition of her own strength and potential. She thought of her father's words about earning respect through hard work and integrity, realizing that those lessons had been her compass through every challenge. The award was a milestone, but Sarah knew it was not an endpoint. Her service was just beginning, and with it came the responsibility to live up to the ideals the Valor Cross represented. She embraced this role with a sense of purpose, determined to lead by example and inspire others as she had been inspired. Returning to the rhythm of military life, Sarah found herself approached by new recruits seeking guidance. Her experiences had given her a voice and a presence that commanded respect, not through volume, but through the authenticity of her actions and the steadiness of her character. She became a mentor and a symbol of what could be achieved through quiet determination. In conversations with fellow soldiers, Sarah emphasized the importance of resilience, humility, and consistent effort. She shared her story not as a tale of exceptional talent, but as one of perseverance and the refusal to be defined by others' doubts. Her approach resonated, offering a roadmap for others navigating the challenges of military life. The legacy Sarah was building extended beyond her personal achievements. It was a testament to the power of character and the impact of leading with integrity and quiet strength. Her journey had reshaped perceptions and inspired a culture where courage was measured not by noise but by steadfast commitment. As she prepared for the next chapter of her military career, Sarah felt a renewed sense of confidence and purpose. The Valor Cross was a reminder of the potential within her, and the responsibility she carried to uphold the standards it represented. She was ready to face new challenges, knowing that her past had forged a foundation of resilience and courage. In the stillness of the evening, as the barracks settled into quiet, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. The journey from the timid recruit to the honored soldier had been arduous but transformative. Each step, each challenge, had contributed to the woman she had become, a leader who understood that true strength was born from perseverance and quiet resolve. Cadet Sarah Mitchell had become more than just a name on a roster. She was a symbol of courage, dedication, and the power of leading by example. Her story was now woven into the fabric of the military, a legacy that would inspire those who followed. And with the Valor Cross resting against her chest, Sarah stood ready to continue that journey, embodying the very ideals she had fought so hard to earn.